Hi, everybody. Welcome to my podcast. This is Noor, and today I'm joined by my good friend and colleague Jelita from CEDAR. And today we're going to be talking about emotional regulation. Hi, Jelita. Thanks for joining us. Can you tell us a bit about what you do and who you are?
Hey Madiha, thanks for having me today. I'm really excited because this is my first time on a podcast and I'm glad it's with you. So, everyone, I'm Jelita and I'm from Singapore and I've been working with autistic individuals since 2007. It's been an amazing 18 years. I started with early intervention and after about 2 years, I began training and coaching teachers in a special school I was in. Did that for about 8 years and then decided to expand my autism knowledge and skills by working with autistic adults in job coaching. So I managed cases and worked with employers, making working environments more inclusive. So after that, I worked for a pediatrician who had a special interest for SEND children. I was a special needs therapist in her clinic, and I saw patients from 3 to teens. And then I moved on to a consulting gig in Jakarta, Indonesia, where I was with them for 2 years and helped with the whole process, training teachers, coaching them, looking at improving the school. So now I'm here in the Middle East, looking forward to spreading my knowledge to and my services here in the UAE.
That's a wealth of knowledge there, Jelita. You've got a lot of experience. And I know I always admire the work that you do and the discussions we have are always so meaningful. So I'm
Thank you.
really looking forward to this. So let's get into the topic of emotional regulation. What is emotional regulation?
Okay, so emotional regulation, it's we deal with it every day. It's a necessity in our lives, right? It helps us to manage our emotions, manage the reactions, and also make thoughtful decisions and adapt to everyday challenges. And it is very hard. And why it's very important is that because we cannot always understand or predict when it's going to happen. Many times it happens because someone is overwhelmed, upset, stressed, tired, and even sick. And these are common triggers. So I think understanding recurring episodes and triggers can be very helpful for parents. And it also allows the individual to cope better with challenges, build stronger relationships, and improves both mental and physical health. That's a big one.
Yes.
Social
Yeah.
regulation.
I think it's hard to sort of define into sort of one paragraph or one sentence. There's a lot of things around it,
For
and
sure.
it's that sort of considering the emotional dysregulation as well and the strategies that we need to um, eventually get to that emotional regulation stage.
Even I'm learning, like, every person I meet, it's different, and I'm learning new things about emotional regulation, new strategies.
Yeah, and yeah. So, in your work, what do you think is a common misconception about emotional regulation, and how do we break or sort of get past this?
Hmm. So the common misconception, sorry, is of course expecting someone to calm down on the spot. This is what I think. And I get why some parents do this. And as a parent myself, sometimes you are anxious and very stressed when your child is not calm or about to have a meltdown. But we need to stop and think how the child is feeling at that moment. It's not possible to stop crying on demand, even for neurotypicals like us. How do we break it to your question? In my experience, it's all about practice. We need to practice some strategies ourselves before executing them on our children. The best advice I think I can give is to stop, take deep breaths before we react.
Yeah, I guess it's about that sort of, accepting it's a developmental stage as well,
Yeah,
and things don't sort of happen overnight, so you can't expect like, for example, the skill of walking as well. It doesn't happen overnight. That happens with practice. So it's
exactly.
important to practice strategies to reach that emotional regulation stage, and accept what's going to happen along the way.
Yeah, and even for us, right? Like, and when we're very upset, it's so tough to just calm down on the spot. We need to find ways, but we find it more easily than autistic individuals, of course, and that's why they need more practice.
Yeah, and as that focus on you just said, upset and sort of struggle, and understanding that it's an upset and struggle isn't, something wrong, um, or an outburst that's meaningless.
Yeah, exactly.
And what question do you wish more people asked about emotional regulation?
Okay, so this is easy, and I wish more parents and professionals ask me this, is that how do I help my child? Or how do I get him to be more regulated? When someone asks for help, it shows that they have somewhat thought about how the process and possibly strategies and possible strategies, and maybe they were not working, but that's fine. It's all about trial and error. I wish more people would ask professionals this.
Yeah. It's also opening, yourself up to vulnerabilities as well, and asking for that help is sort of you're
Mm,
seeking that support. And
yeah.
being the more vulnerable you are with seeking that support, the more likely you are to get the support that you need.
Yes.
Sometimes it's
It's
about
easier said
empowering.
than done, obviously. So its support system it's very important, very crucial for the whole family. It's not
Yeah, and
easy.
empowering those parents
Mm,
to ask questions and seek support.
yeah.
And what role do you think physical self care plays in emotional regulation? So things like sleep, hygiene, nutrition, exercise.
Okay, so that's a big one too. So let's focus on the movement part first. So I think it's very important, as we all know, moving your body releases endorphins, and that improves generally your mood. So for autistic individuals, repetitive movements such as swinging, running, or swimming can have a calming effect, while structured practices like yoga or even martial arts can teach self-regulation skills. So let me take you back to a client I had years ago, a 25-year-old adult, and he was working in a bank. To keep himself regulated, he would do push-ups every hour. So it was taught to him, and he managed his own sort of like routine. So sometimes it would be 5 push-ups, sometimes it would be 10. So it's between 5 to 10. And this helped him to stay focused at work. So, creating a daily structure routine helps individuals manage stress, reduce anxiety, and develop better emotional and behavioral control.
And also in terms of nutrition, does that play a big role in emotional regulation?
Yes, of course. I think diet, I mean, you're talking about how it helps with like gut health and stuff like that. And we all know that when our blood sugar spikes or crashes and stuff, like emotions tend to swing more quickly, right? You get irritable, you get anxious and restless, and you get tired and emotional shutdown, basically. So I think supporting individuals with balanced meals, it's very important. But we are very aware that a lot of autistic individuals um, have certain preference for food. Yeah, some like them a little bit more mushy, some like them a little more crunchy. So I think parents need to kind of like play around with that. And I think keeping a food data, like a log, it helps parents to understand the child better, and whether it really affects their mood.
Like a food diary?
Yeah, a food diary. Sorry, yes, a food diary.
Yeah. And is that something that you use in your practice as well with parents that you work with and children, food diaries and things like that?
Especially if the client has a lot of issues with food. And
Yeah.
sometimes parents don't understand that they could be a main trigger, food. Um, and sometimes they think like, okay, it's just sleep or he's sick, but it's not just that. But we have to look at all the other possible triggers or reasons, and food plays a big part.
Yeah. And what about sort of hygiene and sort of personal care like that? Do you think that's how do we understand that?
Mm. So hygiene is a big thing. We all know that let's talk about sleep also, because sleep is also a big part, right? So sleep helps with emotional regulation, but not everyone knows that hygiene plays an important part as well. Many individuals suffer from taking care of themselves, and there are possible reasons for this. So the big one is sensory sensitivities. They can be heightened or reduced sensitivity to sensory input, such as like a reaction to the taste of a taste of a toothpaste, sorry, or refusing to wash one's face. These situations can be very uncomfortable or stressful for them, or even for the parents. Hygiene isn't automatic. It requires conscious effort. And what do I mean by this is, well, we when we take a shower, we don't realize that it actually takes a lot of organization. And because this is generally difficult for autistic individuals, it may lead to recurring meltdowns or avoidance. In the long run, it can lead to frustration, shame, anxiety, and even misunderstanding from peers and adults.
Yeah, and I think that's a great example as well of using, of showering, because there's so many different parts to it, as you said, sort of, before you actually get into the shower, you're having your clothes ready, your towel,
Yeah.
things like that.
Yes.
Um,
That's
but
the
then also,
organization part. And the
yeah,
sensory sensitivity would be like, some clients of mine, they use no fragrance soap, and they have timers in their bathrooms. I remember there was this 8-year-old boy. Before he undressed himself, I went through, part of my session was going through, the different stages, different steps of shower. We actually made visuals, put it in the shower, and we put a timer there. So when he goes in, he puts in the timer, he says, okay, 3 minutes, and then it's done. And for him, it's because he likes the feel of water, and that he takes 15 minutes to shower. And obviously, you can't take 15 minutes to shower. So with a timer, he was able to break down. I even put like timing for each step. Like washing hair, it's like 2 minutes. So even breaking down that way helps them.
yeah. I guess also you can have the opposite as well. Some people might not like the feel of water, so
Yes.
that sort of showering as well is difficult for them in that way.
Yeah. Yes. Can always go two ways, right?
Yeah,
Yeah,
definitely.
either way. Yeah.
And just sort of moving on, and this is probably a bit of a big question, and we could discuss this for hours. But what are some healthy habits you'd recommend incorporating into a daily routine to build emotional resilience before stress occurs?
So, like the previous example I gave you about the 25-year-old, it's the same for all ages. We need to find out what activities calm them down. We all know that no two people are alike, so some may need lesser physical activities and more sensory ones, and that's fine. We just need to be aware, that building a routine takes time, and most importantly, we need consistency. It's a big thing. I'm always stressing about consistency. Scheduling it daily, for example, making part of their morning routine before they go to school, is a great habit. We need to also know which part of the day your child feels, either more sluggish or overstimulated. The activities or sensory breaks depend on the emotional regulation state at that time of the day. So some parents can identify a pattern, and that's an advantage for them, as they can easily structure that into the child's day. I cannot emphasize enough how essential it is to include these activities in their day to help them manage their emotions and bodies. It's really important.
Yeah. That's all my questions. Did you have any sort of final thoughts you wanted to add, or anything else important that you'd like to relay about this topic?
Um, I think, like what we mentioned earlier, we need to take time to practice. It's not like you said, you give an example, like it's like walking. When a baby learns to walk, it takes a few days, it takes a few months. Crawling can take a few months. It's like that with emotional regulation. Trying to implement these strategies will take some time. It will be trial and error, and we just need to have a lot of patience with it.
Yeah, and I think that's it's also important for sort of professionals and external people to the sort of family unit to also understand that parents will sometimes get frustrated,
Yeah.
and they might want their children to progress in certain ways, but it's okay to feel like that for
Yeah.
parents.
And don't,
Um,
oh yeah, and then if I can add something, don't
sure.
compare. Don't
Yeah,
compare your child with another child's progress.
yeah. That
Yeah.
sort of uniqueness of what's working with your child
That's
might
right.
not work with another. So whilst it is, I think we've discussed before, it's important to have that community of parents that are going through similar things to you.
Mm,
um, that comparison can be dangerous. So you need the community because you need an outlet as well. You need a
yeah.
space to discuss your struggles and be open. That psychological safe space.
Yeah.
Um, but that comparison, be careful of that comparison and sort of setting false hopes on that something that works with another child is going to automatically work with your child.
Yeah. Exactly. That false hope. It's dangerous when you go down that path.
Yeah. Okay, thank you very much for joining us, Jelita. That was a really insightful conversation. And thank you for my viewers for watching, like, subscribe, all of that jazz. And take care. Bye.